I think I've said this so many times. There is never a dull day in the field of Canadian immigration. Immigration Minister yesterday announced measures to strengthen family reunification. And this was also part of the mandate letter that was issued to him when he became the immigration minister. Out of the total immigration quotas for each year, you have roughly 70 to 80,000 people who become permanent residents by way of spousal sponsorships. Now, spousal sponsorship basically are of two types: inside Canada and outside Canada, which basically means if your spouse is inside Canada living with you, when I'm saying spouse, please, I also mean common law partners. So if your spouse is inside Canada, so when I'm referring to spouse, I mean the spouse who has to be sponsored, who at this point of time is foreign national, has no connection to, who does not have a status in Canada. The sponsor here in this case means a person who is already a permanent resident or a Canadian citizen. So these are the two categories of people who can sponsor their families. Now, family here means spouse, common law partner, or dependent children. So two types of sponsorship applications. First one is under the family class. Family class is outside Canada. A person is outside Canada's the principal applicant, who is the spouse outside Canada, family member outside Canada, and inside Canada, which is under the Spouse Common Law Partner Program inside Canada. It's called SCLC, Spouse Common Law Partner Program. Okay, SCLC, which is inside Canada program, would normally or typically allow or makes or allows the spouse to also apply for open work permit as part of the fact that they're applying for inside Canada sponsorship application. Now, the two very distinct difference between these two things: outside Canada, you could not apply for an open work permit, but you were eligible for an appeal if your spousal sponsorship application was refused. This is a family class. SCLC, Spouse Common Law Partner Program inside Canada, you were allowed, or rather you were eligible for an open work permit, but you did not have a right to appeal in case your spousal sponsorship application was refused. Obviously, also it also meant that you are inside Canada, and the reason you're being given this advantage or the provision for applying for your work permit is because you are inside Canada. Therefore, travel in and out of Canada was not really recommended. Okay, but where outside Canada means you can, even if you have a visa to come in Canada, you can come in and go inside. So these are the two distinct advantages. What that basically also meant that for people who are outside Canada, family class, they had to stay away from their sponsor because the sponsor needs to be in Canada at the time of application and needs to continue maintaining their primary residence in Canada. Traveling for a long duration of time while the application is progress is not recommended, not looked favorably. It could also mean that your primary residence is not in Canada and therefore the application gets refused. But that also meant that if the sponsor is going to be in Canada, the spouse is going to be outside Canada, and sometimes these spousal sponsorship applications can take a year or more. We know that, right? During COVID, it was taking 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years in some cases, which basically meant that the families are not united, right? So they have to live separately, which can, as you can imagine, can have some very severe emotional stress, mental stress on both the partners, and sometimes can also separate families permanently. Long distance relationships are always, can also be stressful. And therefore, under the family reunification, they have made several changes. What the changes are: first of all, even if you're applying under family class, so even if your application is under family class, which basically means your spouse is outside Canada, you can apply for an open work permit now if your spouse comes to Canada. So the provision is still there for an open work permit, but earlier it was only for SCLC. And I know this sounds a bit confusing, and I know it can be confusing. So for example, let me clarify this for you. If you're applying under the family class, if you're outside Canada, but you have a visit visa, you come into Canada, this does not change your category. You still remain a person who is applying for an application outside Canada, means your application will be processed by a visa office outside Canada. So just because you traveled into Canada, you've got a visit visa, or you somehow managed to get a different study permit, work permit, or whatever, you've come into Canada, that does not change your category. You are still going to be an applicant whose application is being processed outside Canada. But now, because you are inside Canada, with this new change, you can now apply for an open work permit. Of course, for people who are inside Canada already, if you're applying for spousal sponsorship, you could apply for an online work permit. That was an open work permit, and that was already the option. Also, further, what has been a big change, which I really love, and that is now Spouses can apply for TRV. TRV stands for temporary residence visa, which is also referred to as visit visas. Earlier, also you could apply for visit visas, but in most cases they were refused, and they were refused primarily because your spouse is inside Canada, your sponsor, and that is seen as a very strong tie to Canada, means you have no reason to return back. And therefore, it was decided, or it was understood, that you will have no reasons to return back. Hence, your ties to your home country are weak, and hence you will be a person who will stay beyond their validity of visa, and therefore your application for visit visa is refused. Almost 70 to 75% of applications for TRVs in such cases were refused. However, now, under this new change that they have announced, not only will your application be considered favorably, I strongly recommend apply for your TRV only after getting your file number or AOR of your spousal sponsorship application. Mind you, this is just a recommendation. This is not a mandatory requirement at this point of time. Of course, you can still apply for TRV even before you have received your AOR, your file number, but it's just my recommendation. So because at this point of time we don't really have more directions, more clarity of this application type, and hence I'm suggesting to apply for your TRV after you have your AOR. Under the dual intent, you can apply for TRV. Not only will they be processed favorably, they will also be processed in a 30-day period flat. So you can apply for TRV, come to Canada, within 30 days, your application should be approved while your PR application is still being processed. But hey, hold on. This is the good thing. Now that you are inside Canada on a TRV, apply for an open work permit. Okay. That is the good news. That is how to get around this and still be able to apply for an open work permit, which is brilliant. At least there is a provision, right? Earlier, there was no provision. So now you don't have to stress out about the weight of a long duration of processing time. At least you can be with your spouse. Partners can be together. The families can be reunited, sometimes children as well. And if your children are above the age of, the age that is allowed to work in Canada, even the children can apply for the open work permit. They will also be allowed. The dependent children will also be allowed to apply for open work permit. Earlier, that was not the provision. This change that has been finally announced, this was long due. This they should have done long back. The links are all in the description box of the YouTube video, so you don't have to worry about this. This was the open work permit applying as a sponsor, spouse, or common law partner in Canada. Here it says you can apply for open work permit if you are one of the following: spouse, common law partner, conjugal partner living in Canada who's being sponsored for permanent residence, or an accompanying dependent child of the principal applicant. So in both the cases, you will be able to apply. The application is not difficult. You don't need consultants. You don't need lawyers. You don't need agents to handle this application. A lot of times people get confused. They think, oh, they need somebody who really understands. No, the link is in the description box. This website is pretty good. All you need to do is follow everything. Here it says how to apply for an open work permit. I mean, can't be any more simpler, right? It says for the main steps to apply, see how to apply for a work permit. Below are the steps. You have to choose yes or no. If you choose you have a valid temporary residence status, it will give you the steps. If you choose no, obviously, then you cannot apply for the work permit because then you're not eligible. You need to first apply for TRV, come to Canada, then you can apply for open work permit. But if you choose yes, and as you scroll down, it will tell you exactly what you need to do. You need to get your AOR letter. AOR letter basically is your acknowledgement of receipt. You usually get that once your sponsor has been approved as a sponsor, and that basically is also called the stage 1 approval or approval in principle. And then you can apply for the open work permit. You must apply online. There is no applying at the border, flag polling, no such thing. You have to apply online. Below are the extra steps to follow for the open work permit. Here everything has been listed. It's not complicated at all. The minute you go to your GCK account, you click on come to Canada option. There you say you want to apply for a work permit, and then it says does the following criteria apply to you? And you will say yes to the following question. I am applying for an open work permit under the active public policy or pilot program. Just say yes to that. And you will then fill out the application form. What type of work permit you're applying for? You will choose open work permit. This would be in the application form. And you will, in the job title and brief description of duties, you will mention SCLC, FCOWP. And that's just about it. That's all you need to do. Follow the website. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You don't need anything technical. Family information form you need to complete. IMM 0008. You please provide the copy of that. Provide the copy of your AOR that shows your permanent residence application is complete for processing. Okay, that is one of the important documents. And pay the fee, $255 for the open work permit, and you will pretty much be sorted. Okay, so do this and you will hopefully be able to get through with your application. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in again today. Please follow me on Instagram. We talk a lot about different things there as well. Of course, if you wish to make an appointment one-on-one, then this is the link. You're most welcome. Click on this link. We can talk about your application, your queries, your situation one-on-one to give you a better insight. If you wish to avail any of our services, we do. Obviously, we are a full-fledged immigration company. After all, we handle all application types completely. TRPs, representing you to IRB, detention reviews, refugee cases, express entry, of course, PNP, study permits, postgraduate, all kinds of applications. Drop us an email. We'll be happy to work with you if that's what you're looking to. Do subscribe, do share the video, do like on it, do hit the book button so that it can get out to more and more people. Thank you once again. Stay safe, take care, and I shall see you next time. Bye.